The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss, and Kang Do-hyun stepped onto Station Vera 7 for the first time. The air smelled strange. It was too clean, too processed, like breathing inside a hospital. Behind him, Yoon-hana carried both their bags without complaint, her sharp eyes already scanning the corridors ahead. Smells like recycled fear. Hana muttered "Do-hi" and smiled but said nothing. He had learned long ago that silence was its own kind of weapon. The Galactic Combat Academy was everything the reports had described. The station was massive, spinning slowly in orbit around a dying red star. Species from 100 different worlds trained here, learning to fight, to lead, to survive. For 30 years, humans have been part of galactic society. But this was only the third time Earth had sent soldiers to this particular academy. The last group had left 5 years ago, and the record said they had not done well. Do-hyun intended to change that. A tall alien waited for them at the end of the corridor. It stood on 4 legs, with 2 more arms folded across its chest. Its head was triangular, covered in a hard shell, and its eyes were compound, made of thousands of tiny lenses that reflected the light like broken glass. This was a Korath, one of the older species in the galaxy. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. "You are the Earth representatives," the Korath said. Its voice was clicking and sharp, translated through a device on its chest. "I am Instructor Velis. You will address me as Instructor or Sir, nothing else." Do-hyun bowed slightly. "Understood, Instructor." Velis studied him with those strange eyes. "Your species has a reputation, human. Reckless, impulsive, dangerously overconfident." The instructor's mandibles clicked together in what might have been disapproval. "Here, you will learn discipline. You will learn control. Do not get overconfident. It will get you killed." "Yes, Instructor," Do-hyun replied softly. Velis turned and walked away, expecting them to follow. Hana moved close to Do-hyun, her voice barely a whisper. "You're going to cause problems, aren't you?" Do-hyun's smile widened just a little. Too late. The barracks were built for aliens, not humans. The beds were too hard, shaped for bodies with shells and scales instead of soft skin. The temperature was cold, kept that way for species who came from frozen worlds. Do-hyun and Hana unpacked their things without complaint. They had slept in worse places. "I counted 15 Torvan on the way here," Hana said, organizing her medical supplies. "Big ones." They looked at us like we were food. Maybe we are. To them, that's not funny. It wasn't a joke. The Torvan were reptilian giants, standing over 2 meters tall with scales like armor and claws that could tear through metal. They came from a high-gravity world, which made them incredibly strong. In galactic rankings, they were considered one of the most dangerous warrior species. They did not like competition. Do-hyun had read every report he could find about this academy. He knew the species, their strengths, their weaknesses. He knew that humans were considered Deathworlders, creatures from a planet so hostile that survival itself was an achievement. Earth had high gravity, extreme weather, deadly predators, and toxic plants. To most aliens, it was a nightmare. But to Do-hyun, it was just home. The first assembly happened that evening. All 30 recruits gathered in a circular room with no chairs, standing in their species groups. The Torvan clustered together, their heavy breathing filling the space like distant thunder. The Sylphines stood apart, their thin bodies swaying slightly, their 4 eyes blinking in perfect rhythm. The Mindari floated at the edges, their tentacles barely touching the ground, their telepathic whispers brushing against Do-hyun's mind like cold fingers, and in the middle stood the 2 humans, alone. Instructor. Velis addressed them from a raised platform. "You have been selected because your governments believe you are exceptional. Your species believe you are warriors." His compound eyes swept across the room. I believe nothing until I see proof. Tomorrow, you will begin your first trials. You will work in teams. You will suffer together. And many of you will fail. A Torvan near the front made a rumbling sound. Laughter, maybe. He was the largest of his kind in the room, with scars across his snout and one eye clouded white from an old injury. He looked directly at Doyen. The softskins will fail first, the Torvan said. His name, Doyen would later learn, was Grohl. Look at them. No claws, no armor, no strength. They will break before the first trial ends. Some of the other aliens laughed. The Silphine clicked their tongues in amusement. Even the Mandari seemed to pulse with something like mockery. Velis did not silence them. Doyen stood perfectly still. His face showed nothing. Beside him, Hana's jaw tightened, but she also remained silent. They had both been trained for moments like this. They knew that words meant nothing. Only action mattered. When the assembly ended, the recruits filed out in groups. Grohl deliberately walked close to Doyen, close enough that his massive shoulder struck the human and nearly knocked him off his feet. Doyen caught his balance without a sound. Careful, soft skin, Grohl growled. Accidents happen in training. I will be careful, Doyen replied evenly. Thank you for the warning. Grohl snorted and walked away. He did not see the look that passed between Doyen and Hana. He did not notice the way Doyen's eyes tracked his movements. Memorizing his gait, his posture, the slight weakness in his left knee where an old wound had healed badly. That night, Doyen sat on his uncomfortable bed and stared at the ceiling. The station hummed around him, a constant vibration that never stopped. Somewhere in the distance, he could hear the Torvan laughing, celebrating their imagined superiority. They really don't know anything about us, Hana said from her bed. They think we're weak. Good. Good? Dohyun closed his eyes. Underestimation is the greatest gift an enemy can give you. Let them laugh. Let them believe we are soft and slow and stupid. He smiled in the darkness. When the time comes, they will learn the truth. And what truth is that? Dohan's voice was quiet, almost gentle. That humans are not survivors because we are lucky. We are survivors because everything on our world tried to kill us, and we killed it first. We ate the predators. We conquered the weather. We spread across every corner of a planet that wanted us dead. He opened his eyes. And now we are here. Hana was silent for a long moment. Then she laughed softly. The instructor told you not to be overconfident. He did. And? Dahyun's smile was a knife in the dark. Like I said, too late. The simulation chamber was the size of a small city. Dahyun stood at the entrance and looked up at walls that stretched so high they disappeared into artificial clouds. The technology here was beyond anything Earth had built. The chamber could create any environment, any weather, any threat. Today, it would create a jungle. Instructor Velis stood before the 30 recruits, his forearms clasped behind his back. Your first trial is simple. Enter the jungle. Find the beacon. Return. You have 6 hours. His compound eyes lingered on the humans. You will work in teams of 3. The teams have already been assigned. Dohyun felt the familiar weight of attention as Velis read the names. When his team was announced, he understood immediately. It was not an accident. Team 7, Grull of Torvan Prime, Mira of Silthine, Kang Do-yun of Earth. Grull made a sound of disgust. The Torvan's scarred face twisted with anger. I refuse. I will not carry a soft skin through this trial. You will, Velis said flatly, or you will be removed from the program. For a moment, Dohyun thought Grull might attack the instructor. The massive alien's claws flexed, his muscles tensed. But then he looked away, his pride crumbling under the reality of his situation. He needed this training. His people expected him to succeed. Myra, the Sylphine, said nothing. She was smaller than the others of her kind, with gray-green skin and 4 eyes that moved independently of each other. She looked at Donyan with an expression he could not read. Curiosity, maybe. Or calculation. Stay behind us, Grohl growled as they approached the chamber entrance. Try not to die. I will not slow down for you. Understood, Dohyun said. The jungle came alive around them the moment they stepped through the barrier. The air changed, becoming hot and wet, filled with the sounds of insects and distant animal calls. Trees rose around them like towers, their leaves blocking out the artificial sun. The ground was soft, covered in rotting plants and hidden roots. Grohl charged forward immediately, his massive body crashing through the undergrowth like a living tank. Mira disappeared into the shadows, her thin body moving between trees with impossible grace. Dohyun followed at his own pace, his eyes tracking everything. He noticed the pressure plates hidden beneath fallen leaves. He saw the thin wires stretched between branches at neck height. He heard the faint hum of drones circling overhead, waiting for prey. Roll, he called out. Stop. The Torvan did not stop. He did not even slow down. 3 seconds later, the ground collapsed beneath him. Dohyun reached the edge of the pit and looked down. Grohl had fallen 3 meters, landing on his back in a tangle of artificial vines. The vines were already moving, wrapping around his legs and arms, pulling him down into darkness. This was not a killing trap, but it would hold him for hours. Time he did not have. Help me, Grohl roared. His pride was gone now, replaced by fear. Human, help me. Dohyun studied the vines. They were mechanical, controlled by sensors that detected movement. The more Grohl struggled, the tighter they became. Stop moving, Dohyun said calmly. What? Stop moving. The vines respond to motion. Be still. Grohl forced himself to stop. His breathing was heavy, his eyes wild, but he obeyed. Slowly, the vines loosened their grip. Dohyun found a fallen branch, thick and strong. They lowered it into the pit. Grab this. Do not pull. Let me lift you. It took several minutes, but Dohyun managed to pull the massive Torvan out of the pit. Grohl collapsed on solid ground, his scales scratched, his pride wounded far worse than his body. The Sylphine, Dohyun said. Where is she? A scream answered his question. Mira had gone ahead, confident in her speed and stealth. She had not seen the drone swarm until it was too late. Now she was running, her thin body dodging between trees, while a dozen small flying machines chased her. Their weapons were not lethal, but they would hurt. They would slow her down. They would fail her. Dohyun ran. He had always been fast. On Earth, in the mountains where he had trained, speed meant survival. He had chased enemies through forests and across rooftops. He had run for hours without stopping, because stopping meant death. Now he ran again, his body remembering what his mind had never forgotten. He caught up to Myra in less than a minute. She was cornered against a rock face, the drones circling her like hungry animals. Dohyun did not slow down. He grabbed a stone from the ground and threw it at the nearest drone. The machine exploded in a shower of sparks. Before the others could react, he had already thrown 2 more stones, each one finding its target with perfect accuracy. The remaining drones turned toward him. Good. Duhayan ducked under their first attack, rolled across the ground, and came up with a branch in his hands. He swung it like a weapon, knocking 2 more drones out of the air. The last 3 tried to surround him, but he was already moving, spinning, striking. In 10 seconds, every drone was destroyed. Mira stared at him with all 4 of her eyes. How did you find me? She whispered. Duhayan pointed at the ground. You left tracks. Broken branches. Disturbed soil. He shrugged. On Earth, we call it tracking. We evolved to follow prey across entire continents. Finding you is easy. Your world, Myra said slowly. It really is a death world. Yes, they found Grull waiting where Do-Yoon had left him. The Torvan was standing now, his wounds forgotten. He looked at Do-Yoon differently. There was still anger in his eyes, but also something else. Something like respect. The beacon, Grull said. We still need to find it. Do-Yoon nodded. He had already seen it, a faint light pulsing through the trees half a kilometer ahead. He had noticed it while saving Myra, his brain automatically processing information even in the middle of combat. Follow me, he said. They reached the beacon without further incident. Do-Yoon guided them around 3 more traps, spotted 2 hidden drones before they could attack, and found a shortcut through a river that cut their travel time in half. When they emerged from the jungle, they were the first team to finish. Instructor Velis checked their time. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of surprise he could not hide. 1 hour and 43 minutes, he said. A new record. Other teams straggled out over the next several hours. Some were injured. Some had failed completely. But Team 7 had succeeded, and everyone knew why. That night, Myra found Do-Yoon in the barracks. You saved my life today, she said. Her voice was soft, uncertain. I was wrong about your kind. I thought you were weak. Many do. I was a fool. She paused, her 4 eyes blinking slowly. What are humans, really? Do-Yoon considered the question. We are persistence predators, he said finally. On our world, we did not hunt by being faster or stronger than our prey. We hunted by never stopping. We would chase an animal for hours, for days, until it collapsed from exhaustion. And then we would eat it. He met her gaze. That is what we are. We are the species that never stops. We are the species that keeps coming, no matter how long it takes, no matter how much it hurts. We are the species that simply refuses to die. Myra was silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. I am glad we are not enemies. Do-Yoon smiled. So am I. Word spread through the station like fire. The human had carried his team. The human had broken records. The human had done what no soft skin was supposed to do. Do-Yoon felt the change in how others looked at him. The mockery was gone, replaced by something colder. Fear, maybe. Or hatred. Instructor Velis called a special lecture 3 days after the first trial. All 30 recruits gathered in the main hall, standing in their usual groups. But this time, Do-Yoon noticed that the space around him and Hana was a little larger. The other aliens kept their distance. Velis stood on his platform, his compound eyes sweeping across the room. Today we discuss limitations, he announced. Every species has them. Understanding your weaknesses is as important as knowing your strengths. It began with the Torvan. Their size made them powerful but slow. Their cold blood meant they struggled in low temperatures. Their pride made them reckless. He moved to the Silthine. Their speed came at the cost of strength. Their 4 eyes gave them excellent vision, but made them sensitive to bright light. Their social nature meant they panicked when isolated. He discussed the Mindari, the Korath, and half a dozen other species. Each time, he was clinical, fair, honest. Then he came to the humans. Earth species, Velis said, and his voice carried a weight it had not held before. Soft skin, weak bones, slow reproduction, limited sensory range. He paused. And yet they survive. They spread. They adapt. His mandibles clicked. Some call this luck. I call it something else. He looked directly at Do-Yoon. The humans compensate for their physical weakness with technology and desperation. They build tools because their bodies are not enough. They fight together because alone they would die. They are survivors, yes, but survival is not the same as strength. Do-hyun listened without expression. He had heard these words before, in different forms. He had proven them wrong before, too. "Instructor," he said quietly, "may I offer a demonstration?" The room went silent. Even Velis seemed surprised. For a moment, his compound eyes flickered with something unreadable. What kind of demonstration? A test of reaction speed. The standard exercise. "You against me." Whispers erupted among the recruits. The reaction speed test was famous. Projectiles were fired at the subject from multiple angles, and the subject had to block or dodge them. It measured reflexes, awareness, and coordination. Instructor Velis had never lost. His forearms and compound eyes gave him an advantage no other species could match. "You wish to challenge me?" Velis asked. There was amusement in his clicking voice. "A human?" "Yes," Velis considered. Then he raised one of his forearms. "Very well. I accept." The test was set up in the center of the room. Automated launchers surrounded a circular platform, ready to fire soft projectiles at high speed. A hit would not cause injury, but it would be recorded. The subject with fewer hits won. Velis went first. He stood in the center of the platform, his forearms raised, his compound eyes tracking everything. The launchers began to fire. What followed was beautiful. Velis moved like a machine, each arm blocking projectiles with perfect precision. His body twisted and turned, never in the wrong place, never too slow. The projectiles came faster and faster, but he blocked every single one. When the test ended, his score was perfect. 0 hits, the recruits applauded. Velis stepped down from the platform, his confidence radiating like heat. "Your turn, human." Do-hyun walked to the center of the platform. He did not raise his arms. He simply stood there, relaxed, his eyes half closed. "Are you ready?" Velis asked. "Yes." The launchers fired. Do-hyun did not block the projectiles. He did not try to catch them. He simply was not there when they arrived. He moved like water, like smoke, like something that existed between heartbeats. His body twisted in ways that seemed impossible, dodging projectiles by centimeters, by millimeters. He ducked, spun, rolled, and rose again without ever losing his balance. The projectiles flew past him, behind him, through the space he had occupied a fraction of a second before. Then he started catching them. His hands moved faster than the eye could follow. He snatched projectiles from the air and threw them back at the launchers, disabling 3 of them. He caught 2 more and held them, spinning to avoid a barrage from behind. When the test ended, he was holding 5 projectiles in his hands. His score was also perfect. 0 hits. But more than that, he had destroyed 3 launchers and redirected 2 projectiles. He had not just passed the test. He had broken it. The room was completely silent. Velis stared at Do-hyun with something that might have been shock. His mandibles clicked rapidly, faster than Do-hyun had ever seen. "How?" the instructor demanded. "How is this possible? Your eyes are not fast enough. Your nerves are not quick enough. How did you know where the projectiles would be?" Hana answered from the crowd, her voice clear and proud. "Humans do not just react. We predict. Our brains are pattern recognition engines. We see a movement begin, and we know where it will end. We do not wait for things to happen. We know they will happen before they do." Velis turned to look at her. "You are saying humans can see the future?" "Not the future," Do-hyun said quietly. "Patterns. Everything moves in patterns. The launchers, the projectiles. Even you, Instructor. You blocked with your upper right arm 60% of the time. Your lower left arm compensated for your upper right. When projectiles came from behind, You always turn clockwise. He shrugged. Patterns. Once you see them, everything becomes predictable. Veles was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer, more careful. I have trained soldiers from 47 different species, he said slowly. I have never seen anyone do what you just did. Your body is weak, yes. Your bones break easily. Your skin tears like paper. He paused. But your mind is something else entirely. Dahem bowed slightly. Thank you, Instructor. It was not a compliment. Veles's eyes gleamed. It was a warning. To myself. And to everyone else in this room. He looked at the other recruits. Do not underestimate the humans. Do not assume their softness means weakness. They have survived a world that should have killed them 1,000 times over. They have conquered predators and plagues and disasters that would have ended any other species. And they did it with those pattern-seeing brains. He turned back to Doyen. I told you not to be overconfident. Doyen met his gaze without flinching. And I told you it was too late. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Veles made a sound that Doyen had never heard before. It was rough and clicking and strange dot. It took him a moment to realize the instructor was laughing. Perhaps it was, Veles admitted. Perhaps it was. He dismissed the class without another word. As the recruits filed out, Doyun felt their eyes on him. But the looks were different now. The contempt was gone. The mockery had disappeared. In its place was respect. And fear. Hana walked beside him as they left the hall. That was impressive, she said quietly. Also stupid. You just made yourself a target. I was already a target. Now you're a bigger one. Dahin smiled. Good. Bigger targets are harder to miss. But they also attract more attention. He glanced at her. And attention is exactly what we need. Hannah frowned. What are you planning? But Dayan just kept walking, his smile never fading. He had plans. And they were only just beginning. The threats started 3 days after the challenge. Do-hyun found the first message on his personal terminal when he woke up. The words were simple and cold. Leave the station or die. There was no signature. No way to trace the sender. He deleted the message and said nothing to anyone. The second message came that evening. The third arrived the next morning. By the end of the week, he had received 12 threats, each one more specific than the last. Someone knew where he slept. Someone knew when he trained. Someone wanted him gone. Hana noticed the change in him. She was trained to notice such things. When he did not answer her questions, she started investigating on her own. It took her 2 days to find the truth. Commander Thrall, she whispered to Doyen in the corner of the barracks. Her face was pale, her eyes hard. He's the station administrator. A Korath, like Veles, but older. More powerful. And he hates Deathworlders. Why? Because he's afraid of us. Hannah pulled out a small data chip. I found records. Hidden deep in the station's archives. Thrall has been sabotaging Deathworld species for decades. Falsifying reports. Arranging accidents. Making sure we never rise too high. She paused. The last humans who trained here, they didn't fail. They were failed. Their scores were changed. Their records were erased. One of them died in a training accident that wasn't an accident at all. Dahan took the chip. Does anyone else know? Not yet. But I made copies. If something happens to us, the truth will come out. Something did happen. The very next day, Instructor Veles called Do-hyun and Hana to his office. His manner was strange, his movements stiff. When he spoke, his voice lacked its usual confidence. You have been selected for a special training mission, Veles said. A survival exercise on the moon designated as Kilos 4. You will be dropped alone. without backup and retrieved after 72 hours. Dahin studied the instructor's face. Something was wrong. The Korath's compound eyes would not meet his gaze. Who ordered this mission? Dahin asked. Commander Thrall, directly. Velis paused. I argued against it. I was overruled. Hannah stepped forward. This is a trap. You know, it's a trap. I know nothing. Velis's voice was flat dead. I follow orders. As should you. He finally looked at Dahin. Be careful, human. Kilos 4 is dangerous. There was something in his eyes. A warning he could not speak aloud. A message hidden beneath the words. Dahin understood. The shuttle left that afternoon. Dahin and Hana sat alone in the cargo bay, watching the stars slip past the small windows. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing to say. The first explosion happened 30 minutes into the flight. The shuttle shook violently, throwing them against the walls. Alarms screamed. Red lights flashed. Through the chaos, Dahin heard the pilot's voice, calm and mechanical. Engine failure. Trajectory compromised. Impact in 4 minutes. Hannah grabbed his arm. We need to get to the escape pods. They ran through the shaking corridor, but the escape pod bay was empty. The pods had been removed. This was not an accident. This was murder. Dahin found the emergency supplies in 30 seconds. He strapped a pack to his back and another to Hannah's. He grabbed every piece of survival gear he could carry. The cargo bay, he said. We jump before impact. That's insane. So is dying. They reached the cargo bay doors just as the shuttle broke through Kilos 4's thin atmosphere. Dahin could see the moon's surface through the window. Frozen wasteland, gray ice, poisonous air. No warmth, no shelter. No hope. He opened the doors. The cold hit them like a hammer. Dahin grabbed Hana and jumped, falling through toxic air toward frozen ground. They hit a snowdrift at an angle, the impact brutal but survivable. The shuttle continued past them, crashing into a mountain of ice half a kilometer away. The explosion lit up the gray sky like a second sun. Dahin forced himself to move. His body screamed with pain, but he had trained for pain. He checked Hannah first. She was alive, but badly hurt. Blood seeped from a wound on her head. Her breathing was shallow, ragged. When he touched her side, she gasped. Broken ribs, she whispered. Maybe internal bleeding. Dahin's medical training was basic, but it was enough. He stabilized her wounds, wrapped her in emergency blankets, and gave her the last of their painkillers. She would survive. But not for long. Not without real treatment. He checked his equipment. He had a knife, a small emergency beacon that was not working, 3 days of food, and no way to call for help. The air was poison. The temperature was dropping. And somewhere above them, Commander Thrall was probably celebrating their deaths. Hana grabbed his hand. Leave me. Find shelter. Come back with help. No. Dahin, I'm dying. You can't carry me and survive. Watch me. He looked at the frozen wasteland stretching in every direction. According to the mission briefing, there was an abandoned mining outpost somewhere on this moon. A place with communications equipment. A place with heat and air. If he could reach it, he could save her. The problem was distance. The outpost was 70 kilometers away. 70 kilometers through frozen hell, carrying an injured woman, breathing poison. Any other species would have given up. Any other species would have laid down and died. But Dahin was human. They wanted to see what Deathworlders can do, he said quietly, staring at the distant mountains. They wanted to test us, to break us. He smiled, and there was no warmth in it. No mercy. Fine, I'll show them. He lifted Hana onto his back, wrapped her in every piece of fabric he could spare, and started walking. The first 10 kilometers were the easiest. His body was still warm from the crash. The adrenaline was still flowing. He walked steadily, one foot in front of the other, his breath forming crystals in the frozen air. The next 20 kilometers were harder. The cold seeped into his bones. His muscles began to cramp. The toxic air burned his lungs with every breath. He held it as long as he could, taking shallow sips when he had to, filtering what he could through his sleeve dot at 40 kilometers. He started to hallucinate. He saw his mother's face in the ice. He heard his father's voice on the wind. He felt the warmth of Korean summers, the smell of food cooking, the sound of children laughing. Memories of home. Memories of life. He kept walking dot at 50 kilometers. Hana stopped responding. Her body was cold against his back. Her breathing was so faint, he could barely feel it. He did not stop to check if she was still alive. If he stopped, he would never start again dot at 60 kilometers. A creature attacked him dot. It came from beneath the ice, a thing of teeth and claws and hunger. It was adapted to this frozen world, built to hunt in the cold. Against any other prey, it would have won easily. Do-yoon killed it in 3 seconds. He drove his knife into its eye, twisted, and pulled. The creature fell without a sound. He cut meat from its body and ate it raw, the warmth filling his stomach, the calories keeping him alive. Then he kept walking. The mining outpost appeared at 72 kilometers. Do-hyun saw it through frozen eyes, through a haze of exhaustion and pain. It was small, barely more than a collection of metal buildings, but it had what he needed. It had hoped he reached the main building. He found the emergency systems. He activated the distress beacon with numb fingers that barely responded to his commands. Then he collapsed on the floor, still holding Hana against his chest. His last thought before darkness took him was simple. They wanted a Deathworlder. Now they've got one. Do-hyun woke to the sound of engines. He was lying on a hard surface, wrapped in thermal blankets, his body aching in places he did not know could ache. Above him, a familiar face came into focus. Myra's 4 eyes blinked down at him. "You're alive," she said. There was wonder in her voice. And something else. Relief? Hana? Do-hyun forced the word through cracked lips. "She's being treated. The doctors say she'll live." Myra paused. "They also say you walked 70 kilometers through a Class 4 hostile environment while carrying her on your back." "They say that's impossible." "Obviously not." A deep rumbling laugh came from somewhere behind Mira. Grohl stepped into view, his scarred face twisted into something that might have been a smile. "The soft skin has teeth after all. I knew I liked you for a reason." Do-hyun sat up slowly. He was on a shuttle, a small one, not the Academy's standard transport. Through the window, he could see Kilos 4 shrinking in the distance, growing smaller as they rose toward the stars. "How did you find us?" he asked. "Your partner," Myra said. Before the mission, she sent copies of everything she had discovered. Commander Threll's records, his crimes, his plans. Her eyes darkened. "When your shuttle signal disappeared, we knew. We stole a ship and came for you." "You stole a ship?" "Borrowed," Grohl growled. "We'll return it, eventually." Do-hyun felt something warm spreading through his chest. It might have been gratitude. It might have been hope. After 70 kilometers of frozen death, he had almost forgotten what hope felt like. "Threll," he said. "He's still on the station." "Yes. Then we're going back." Myra looked uncertain. "You need rest. Medical treatment. The doctors say the doctors can wait." Do-hyun's voice was quiet, but there was steel beneath the words. "Threll tried to kill us. He's been killing Deathworlders for decades. He's not going to stop just because we survived." He met Myra's gaze. "Take me back to the station." The shuttle docked at Station Vera 7 4 hours later. Dahyun walked through the corridors on legs that should not have been able to carry him. His uniform was torn and stained with blood. His face was covered in frost burns. His eyes were hollow and dark, but he was walking. He was alive, and he was very, very angry. The main assembly hall was full when he arrived. All the recruits were there, all the instructors. And at the front of the room, standing on the platform where Velis usually stood, was Commander Thrall. Thrall was older than Velis, his shell darker, his eyes colder. He was in the middle of a speech when the doors opened. When he saw Dahyun, his words died in his throat. "Commander," Dahyun said, walking down the center of the room. Every eye followed him. Every voice went silent. "We need to talk." Thrall recovered quickly. His mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "The human survives. Impressive. But you have no authority here. You're just a recruit. A student. You have nothing. I have this." Dahyun held up the data chip Hannah had given him. He connected it to the hall's main display. Images began to appear on the massive screen behind Thrall. Documents, communications, records of every Deathworlder Thrall had sabotaged. Every career he had destroyed. Every life he had ended. The room erupted in whispers. The Torvan growled. The Silthine clicked in shock. Even the Mindari, usually so controlled, began to pulse with visible agitation. Thrall's composure cracked. "This is fabricated. Lies created by desperate humans trying to save themselves." "Really?" Dahyun pointed at the screen. "That's your personal communication signature. That's your authorization code on the order that removed the escape pods from our shuttle. That's your voice in the recording, telling your agents to make our deaths look like an accident." He paused. "Should I continue?" Thrall's eyes darted around the room. He was looking for allies, for support, for anyone who might help him. He found none. "Guards!" he shouted. "Arrest this human. He is a danger to this station." 2 Korath guards stepped forward. But before they could reach Dahyun, another figure moved to block their path. Instructor Velis. "Stand down," Velis said quietly. "Sir, the commander has ordered." I said stand down. Velis turned to face Thrall, and there was no respect in his eyes. No obedience. Only cold, burning contempt. This human walked 70 kilometers through a Class 4 hostile environment. He survived toxic atmosphere, lethal cold, and predatory fauna. He did this while carrying an injured comrade on his back. He did this because you tried to murder him. His mandibles clicked sharply. "And you thought he was weak." Thrall's voice rose to a scream. "He is an animal. A beast from a death world. His kind should never have been allowed into civilized space. His kind," Velis said slowly, "has shown more courage and honor in 1 week than you have shown in your entire career. His kind does not abandon the wounded. His kind does not surrender to impossible odds. His kind keeps walking when every other species would lay down and die." He stepped closer to Thrall. "And you thought you could break them?" Galactic security arrived before Thrall could respond. The commander tried to run, but Grohl was faster. The massive Torvan caught him by the neck and held him until the officers could take over Dot as Thrall was led away. He looked back at Dahyun with hatred burning in his eyes. "This isn't over," he snarled. "Your kind will never be accepted. You are monsters, freaks. The galaxy will see that eventually." Dahyun met his gaze without flinching. "Maybe," he said quietly, "but we are monsters who protect our own. We are freaks who never stop fighting. And when your kind tried to kill us, we walked through hell and came back for justice." He smiled, and there was nothing warm about it. "That's the difference between us, Commander. You thought you were the predator, but you were always the prey." The assembly hall slowly returned to order. Thrall's crimes would be investigated. Other Deathworld species he had wronged would be found and reinstated. The damage he had caused would take years to undo, but it would be undone. Instructor Velis found Do-Yoon at the edge of the room, standing alone, watching the chaos with tired eyes. "I told you not to be overconfident," Velis said. "I remember, and I was wrong." The Korath's mandibles clicked in. What Do-Yoon had learned was a sign of respect. "I have trained warriors from 47 species. I have seen strength and courage and skill in forms I never imagined. But I have never seen anything like you." He paused. "Your kind frightens me, human, and I do not frighten easily." Do-Yoon turned to look at him. "Is that a compliment?" "It is the truth. You walked through an environment that should have killed you. You fought when any other species would have surrendered. You never stopped. You never gave up." Velis shook his head slowly. "If the galaxy ever truly understood what Deathworlders are capable of, they would not mock you. They would fear you. Maybe they should." Velis laughed, that strange clicking sound that Do-Yoon had only heard once before. "Maybe they should. But for now, you should rest. You have earned it." Dawn found Hana in the medical bay. She was awake, sitting up in her bed, looking almost healthy. When she saw him, she smiled. "They tell me you carried me 70 kilometers," she said. 68. I rounded up. "You're an idiot. I know." She reached out and took his hand. "Thank you for not leaving me. Humans don't leave each other behind." He squeezed her hand gently. "Besides, I made a promise. When we left Earth, I promised I would bring you home. I keep my promises." Hana laughed softly. "Instructor Velis told you not to be overconfident." Do-Yoon smiled, the first real smile he had allowed himself in days. "He did. And what did you say?" He looked at her, at the friend he had carried through frozen hell, at the partner who had trusted him with her life. He thought about the galaxy waiting outside, about the aliens who underestimated humans, about the enemies who would one day learn the truth. "I said it was too late." His smile widened. "And I meant it." 6 months later, Kang Do-Yoon and Yoon Hana graduated at the top of their class. They were offered positions as instructors, tasked with training the next generation of Deathworld soldiers. Myra and Gruel requested assignment to their unit. They had learned something valuable. Fighting alongside humans was not just surviving. It was thriving. On his first day as an instructor, Do-Yoon stood before a class of nervous young recruits. They looked at him with fear and hope and uncertainty. They had heard the stories. They knew what he had done. "Don't get overconfident," he told them. Then he smiled. "Actually," he said softly, "forget I said that." And far away, across the galaxy, the other species began to learn a truth that Commander Thrall had discovered too late. Never underestimate a human, because by the time you realize your mistake, it's already too late.